Okay.
Welcome to Helen and Leah's Smartboard introduction. This is an example of using a Smartboard in a world history classroom. How do you use Smartboards and what can you use them for? You can use them for almost anything. Showing movies, capturing class notes, accessing the internet, and PowerPoint presentations, as we will describe. This is a slide from a PowerPoint presentation that we used in a world history classroom. We were discussing the expansion of Rome and specifically the Punic Wars. So in the previous example, we overlaid arrows to show the progression of the Punic Wars. In this case, we can just write on them with an arrow as such. The first Punic War was fought between Rome and Carthage, and it was fought over the island of Sicily. The second Punic War, Carthage decided to make a surprise attack on Rome. So they sailed around to Carthage Novo in what is now Spain and trekked up along the coast of Spain, over the Pyrenees, along the southern coast of France, and over the Alps, and down towards Rome. The unusual thing about this battle is that Hannibal, who was the head of the Carthaginian army, decided to employ an unusual weapon in his army, and it was elephants. They started out with 37 elephants and ended up with 0. Elephants don't do well in the Alps. He lost most of his elephants in the Alps. The Third Punic War, Rome decided to finish him off once and for all, went straight into Carthage and beat them, and that was the Third Punic War.
Okay, here we have our next slide about the Colosseum, and I'm first going to show you how I was able to use the appear function on PowerPoint. So just by touching the screen, each of my text pieces can come up. This is a great feature to have with students because they can get overwhelmed with a huge piece of information at once. So with this slide, I wanted to show the unique qualities of the Colosseum. So in the class, when we didn't have a Smartboard, I originally tried to get the students to see point out what they can see about the Colosseum and what's interesting about it. And it's kind of difficult because the picture is not incredibly clear. So if I had a whiteboard, a Smartboard, what I would have done is I would have circled this area, which I wanted them to focus on, and said, what's interesting about what's in this circle? And I would try to mark off these walls that are on here and show how there's hallways and it's almost like a maze underneath. And I would tell them that that's where the gladiators and the animals started. And there were elevator contraptions and trap doors where they would pop up. And then I would also point out in a different color that here is where the arena floor would have been. And it would have come all the way over all this so you couldn't see this maze. So using an interactive whiteboard for this PowerPoint presentation would have enhanced our lesson 100% because we could have had more student involvement and we could have clearly shown what we were talking about on each slide so that they wouldn't have to go back and ask questions. Each level would have been shown. And then we can capture it and put it on our website for them to look at later. Or if students were absent, they can see what we talked about in class.